I never imagined the worst day of my life would start with a simple phone notification. It was our 30th wedding anniversary, a milestone I'd envisioned wrapped in warmth and shared smiles, filled with laughter echoing through the rooms and the soft glow of nostalgia settling gently around us. The house itself seemed to hold its breath, warm and familiar, as the smell of his favorite dinner simmered on the stove, mingling with the faint scent of candles flickering faintly on the windowsill. Outside, the evening sky deepened into twilight, wrapping the world in a quiet hush that mirrored the peace I thought we had. But then, the calm shattered. His phone, carelessly left on the dining table, suddenly woke to life. Its screen cast an eerie blue glow that pierced the dim light, a stark contrast to the golden ambiance of the room. It flashed with an unexpected urgency, unable to hide the secret it bore. My eyes locked onto the message, the words hanging harsh and cold across the screen. "Can't wait to see you tonight." The sentence was simple, but the weight it carried crushed me entirely. In that frozen moment, the air seemed to thicken, suffusing the room with a suffocating stillness. My breath caught in my throat, sharp and quick like a stifled cry. A sinking feeling gnawed at me, dragging me deeper into a dark pit of disbelief and dread. I wanted to convince myself it was a mistake, a wrong number sent in error, a message meant for someone else. But that hope was fragile, and in the pit of my stomach, I already knew the truth. The light in the room dimmed, shadows creeping silently across the walls as if aware of the betrayal taking root. He left the room, his footsteps quiet but heavy, and I was left alone with the cold glow of the phone. My hands trembled uncontrollably, as if moved by a force beyond me. With a hesitance born of fear, I reached out and gripped the device, the surface unnervingly cold beneath my fingertips. The screen unlocked easily, revealing a flood of messages, secret promises whispered in digital ink, plans written with intent, and fragments of a life he had kept hidden from me. Each text was a blade, slicing through the fabric of everything we had woven together over 3 decades. The room closed in around me. The once comforting walls now seemed to lean menacingly, tightening like a noose. The silence pressed heavily, interrupted only by my ragged breaths and the faint ticking of the clock, each second echoing louder than the last. The air tasted metallic, thick with betrayal and unspoken grief. My mind raced, trying to piece together the countless moments now overshadowed by deceit, the laughter replaced by this cavernous void. When he returned, his face a mask of uneasy calm, the space between us was filled with a silence so suffocating it roared deafeningly in my ears. The warmth we once shared dissipated entirely, leaving behind a frigid void that swallowed us both. Our anniversary, a day I had treasured for years, now became a haunting landmark, marking the end of everything I thought I understood about us. What followed that night was a breaking point, a shattering that would forever alter the course of my life, ripping apart the truths I had held dear and demanding I confront a reality I never saw coming. For more than 3 decades, I believed our marriage was a sanctuary, a fortress built strong enough to weather any storm. I didn't just marry a husband, I married my best friend, the person I trusted with the deepest parts of my soul. Together, we navigated life's unpredictable currents, raising children, sharing hopes, fears, and dreams. Those years were woven with countless small moments, quiet mornings sipping coffee side by side, laughter spilling from the kitchen after burnt toast jokes, the gentle squeeze of his hand when the world felt heavy. Our relationship was far from perfect. No marriage ever is, but it was mine, carved out of trust and the steady comfort of companionship. I remember his hand reaching for mine during those late nights when sleepless worry crept in, the reassurance in his smile that chased away the darkest clouds hanging over me. His patience was a balm, soothing my restless heart whenever fears threatened to overwhelm. Every glance we shared held a quiet promise of togetherness, a testament to the unspoken bond we nurtured year after year. The house we built was filled with familiar rhythms, the soft creak of the wooden floors under our feet, the mingling scents of freshly brewed tea, and his old worn cologne lingering in the air. Even after all these years, the way his presence filled a room brought me comfort, a feeling that despite life's turbulence, I had found my harbor. I carried the weight of our marriage like a precious jewel, believing it unbeatable, unbreakable. But on that anniversary night, The man I thought I knew revealed a dark, hidden side, a shadow lurking beneath the surface of 50 years of shared life. He became a stranger, cloaked in secrecy. I saw it in the quiet moments when his eyes flickered with hesitation, in the way he brushed past my questions like a chill wind pushing me back. Behind closed doors, behind the routine smiles and familiar routines, there was another life, carefully locked away from me, whispered in stolen glances and concealed by hidden text messages. That night, as shadows lengthened in our home and the air grew thick with unspoken tension, the fragile facade of our marriage cracked wide open. The glass sculpture I believed was steadfast wobbled precariously on the edge of ruin, shattering into painful fragments that glittered sharply in the cold, dim light. Everything changed in that moment. The comfort, the safety, the trust, each piece slipped through my fingers like sand. I was left standing in the ruins of a world I thought was solid, forced to confront a reality that was unbearable to hold. It was as if the house we'd built had become a trap, the walls now closing in, echoing with secrets I could no longer ignore. The man who once held my heart was now distant, two lives existing in parallel. One I was part of, the other hidden in darkness. That night marked not only an ending, but the terrifying beginning of a journey through silence, betrayal, and the painful task of piecing together the shattered fragments of my faith in us. The sanctuary I had known was no longer my refuge. It was a place haunted by the echoes of a love that was no longer whole. I couldn't bear the silence between us any longer. The air in the room had thickened into something suffocating, a heavy blanket of anxiety that seemed to press down on my chest with every breath I took. The familiar hum of the evening, the distant ticking of the clock, the faint rustle of leaves brushing against the window pane, felt oppressive, as if mocking the storm raging inside me. When he returned from the bathroom, I forced a calm expression onto my trembling face, my lips barely managing a smile that felt hollow even to myself. Inside, however, my heart thundered, wild and chaotic, pounding relentless beats that echoed like a war drum in my ears. On the dining table sat his phone, innocuous and yet filled with unspoken torment, its black screen eerily still, almost daring me to look. The cool metal beneath my fingers called to me, as if promising answers I was desperate to find, though I feared what those answers might be. I kept my composure while he was nearby, but the moment his back turned, I found myself unable to resist. Sliding my fingers hesitantly over the cold glass, I unlocked the device, the screen illuminating my face in a harsh, unforgiving light. What poured out from the messages was like a poison seeping slowly into my veins, a stream of secret meetings whispered between the lines, of promises shared in hushed tones that had never been mine to hear, texts filled with an intimacy so raw, so vivid, that it shattered every image I had of the husband I'd loved and trusted for so many years. The words were bullet holes in the facade I'd held onto, tearing through the fabric of our marriage, revealing a secret life he had carefully hidden in the shadows. My body betrayed my attempts at control. My hands shook uncontrollably, and a cold sweat broke out across my skin. The walls of the room seemed to contract, inching in closer until the air was thick, almost poisonous with the weight of the truth I wished I could unsee. The familiar surroundings, the soft glow of the dining lamp, the polished surface of the wooden table, the muted colors of our home, morphed into something alien and menacing. The room constricted into a silent prison, each shadow twisting like a silent witness to my unraveling. Then his footsteps echoed closer, and just as my fingers trembled over the screen, his eyes locked with mine. The calm I had tried to weave shattered instantly beneath the intensity of his gaze. Time seemed to freeze, the space between us charged with tension so thick it almost hummed aloud. Panic surged through me as the phone slipped from my grip, tumbling to the floor with a dull, heart-stopping thud that cracked the silence like thunder. There was no turning back now. The confrontation I'd fought to avoid, the heartbreak I'd tried to postpone, surged forward like a tidal wave. In that moment, everything we had danced around, every lie, every secret, crashed violently into the open. The fragile illusion was destroyed, the inevitable truth laid bare between us. The night stretched on, heavy with unsaid words and raw, jagged emotion, marking the beginning of an ending that neither of us could deny any longer. Looking into his eyes, I felt the immense weight of 30 years pressing down on my soul like a suffocating shroud. That night, everything we had shared, the laughter, the secrets, the quiet moments that stretched between us, seemed to collapse into a heavy silence. His gaze, once so familiar and comforting, now looked like a fractured mirror reflecting a stranger I could no longer recognize. In that frozen moment, a single devastating question tore through me like a sharp blade. How long? The words hung between us, trembling in the heavy air. His hesitation was a cruel echo that shattered the fragile thread of hope I'd been clinging to. I saw the flicker of guilt and shame in his eyes, a softness that crumbled into despair. The silence stretched, painful and unbearable, until finally tears, quiet and unexpected, trickled down my cheeks. They were tears I hadn't anticipated, catching me off guard as the truth spilled out. He confessed. Each word was a jagged shard slicing through my heart. Months of stolen moments, whispered lies, a secret life lived away from the one I thought was my partner, my husband, my best friend. His voice trembled, fragile but raw, as he revealed fragments of a forbidden world that existed beneath the surface of our marriage. The man I'd trusted with everything had been living in two worlds, one with me and one far away. His words felt like knives reopening old wounds, wounds I thought had long healed. The dream we'd built together, one of love, trust, and shared life, was suddenly exposed as a fragile illusion, constructed over a chasm of deceit and distance. It shattered so completely that my heart felt like it had cracked into pieces too sharp and jagged for words. The room around me blurred. The soft yellow glow from the lamp turned cold and pale, casting long shadows that stretched like dark fingers across the walls, creeping toward me, wrapping me in a chilling embrace. Even in the depths of that ruin, something unexpected stirred inside me, the strange, stubborn embers of strength. It was a quiet resolve, a fierce and fragile light cutting through the darkness. I realized then that I deserved more than lies. I deserved the truth, respect, and the chance to heal. The betrayal shook me, but it didn't define me. I was not broken beyond repair. That night, our marriage slipped silently into an ending, not with screams or shouts, but with the cold, deafening stillness of finality. There were no dramatic goodbyes, no battles waged in angry words, only the heavy silence of something irreparably lost. The chapter we wrote together closed quietly, its pages scattered like leaves in a storm. Yet, even as that door slammed shut, I knew my journey was only beginning. I would have to navigate the dark paths ahead, confront fears and doubts, and rebuild myself from the ashes of devastation. The pain was sharp, raw, and honest, but it was also a call, a summons to find peace, to reclaim my agency, and to rediscover who I truly was beyond betrayal's shadow. This night marked the end of one story, but more importantly, the fragile, hopeful start of another. The weeks that followed after that night were nothing short of a relentless storm. Grief swallowed me whole, its dark tides pulling me into depths I never thought I could endure. Every morning felt heavy, as if I was wading through thick fog, choking on memories that refused to fade. The weight of loss settled on my chest like cold stones, making each breath a labor. But grief was only part of the torment. Anger burned fiercely beneath my skin, a raw and searing fire ignited by betrayal so deep it scorched every part of my being. It flared in sudden bursts, flashes of fury that left me breathless and trembling. My mind was a tangled maze of confusion, thoughts spiraling uncontrollably like leaves caught in a storm, unable to find grounding or clarity. Yet, amid that chaotic whirlwind, something fragile began to shift. Slowly, painfully, with trembling steps, I started learning to stand on my own again. The identity I had long worn as wife began to peel away, layer by delicate layer, revealing a self that had been buried beneath years of trust and shared life. It was terrifying to face that emptiness, that space where certainty had crumbled, but it was also strangely freeing. I began to reclaim who I was beyond betrayal's heavy shadow, who I was without the safety net of a story rewritten by lies. I let the pain become fuel rather than poison. Each tear shed, each sleepless night, became part of a difficult alchemy, transforming suffering into strength. I realized, with a fierce clarity, that being broken did not mean I was finished. Betrayal might try to crush me beneath its weight, but it would never define the essence of who I was. My spirit, though bruised and battered, remained intact, waiting for its chance to rise. Now, looking back, I don't see that dreadful anniversary night as an end. Instead, it stands as the first breath of a new beginning, the painful yet necessary step toward reclaiming my life from the ruins. I chose self-love where there was despair, courage where fear lurked, and hope where darkness threatened to consume me. This story remains painful. I carry the scars of that night even now. But it is also a testament. It is proof that even in the deepest shadows, when it feels as if everything has been lost, we find within ourselves an ember of resilience. That ember can grow into a flame that lights the way forward, the way back to peace and healing. I learned that the darkness might test me, but it cannot destroy me. And in that knowledge, there is a kind of terrifying, beautiful freedom, an awakening to the strength that comes from surviving, from enduring, from choosing to live despite everything.